Another arrest has been made in connection with the death of a pregnant teen and her boyfriend. We'll give you the latest. And that dreaded word, shutdown, is circling around Capitol Hill.
Plus, the Arctic cold front is here as the temperatures will continue to drop below freezing. But for how long? Anderson fills you in along with the extended forecast. All that coming up. Good afternoon. I'm Isabel Price.
And I'm Victor Aldana.
Thank you so much for joining us on the newsfeed at noon. Leading up, our top stories.
U.S. Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson's white casket was carried into Texas State Cemetery in Austin Wednesday afternoon by some of her grandsons serving as pallbearers.
Family, friends, and political leaders said goodbye to Johnson, but not to her legacy. Senator Royce West called Johnson a friend and political mentor. He said her work must continue. Among her many accolades, Johnson was the Texas Legislative Black Caucus founders. The current chairman and others said Johnson laid the groundwork for all others to follow.
Dallas Mayor Eric Johnson faces a new challenge. It's a recall petition to remove him from office. The odds of success are stacked in his favor. Johnson was a Democrat when he served in the Texas House of Representatives before running for mayor, and always considered a Democrat in his first term. After winning a second term in May 2023, Johnson announced a switch to the Republican Party in September. It came just after the Dallas City Council rejected his push for much lower property taxes. Dallas County Democrats launched an online petition for Johnson's resignation, which has attracted around 2,000 signers. A 6-year-old girl is dead after a shooting in Old East Dallas on Wednesday afternoon. Police officers arrived to find an injured child and said the little girl was inside the home with several other children and an unsecured firearm. The 6-year-old was taken to a nearby hospital where she later died. Police said it was still unknown how the child was shot and have not released any other information about the shooting or announced any arrest.
An update on a murder mystery in San Antonio that left a pregnant teen and her boyfriend dead. Police have arrested a third person in connection to the deaths of 18-year-old Savannah Soto and 22-year-old Matthew Guerra. Mitra Romanos faces charges including abuse of a corpse and tampering with evidence. Police believe Romanos is the stepmother of 19-year-old Christopher Perciado, who is one of the suspects that was arrested last week, and he faces multiple charges, including capital murder. We're learning more about the hotel explosion in downtown Fort Worth on Monday. You can see the aftermath from the blast off of Houston Street, sending a total of 21 people to the hospital, with 1 being in critical condition and 4 in serious condition. The rest were treated for minor injuries. Our own Ryan Cottrell is downtown.
The investigation continues following an explosion Monday at the Sandman Hotel in downtown Fort Worth. Authorities say a total of 21 people were injured, one of the victims still in critical condition. Witnesses say the blast shook the entire block and shattered nearby windows. Once it was safe, emergency crews entered the building, finding this woman in the rubble.
To the victims and their families, they're in our thoughts and prayers, and they always will be.
As of right now, the majority of the victims have been released from the hospital. Fort Worth Fire and Police Departments are handling cleanup, which is expected to take several days. Part of this cleanup process is boarding up windows that were shattered from the blast, and as you can see, cleanup crews have already cleared debris from the streets. Now, as to what caused this explosion, that is still unclear.
There was natural gas involved. We do not know if gas caused the explosion or the explosion caused the gas problem. So that's part of the investigation.
While the cause is still being investigated, legal experts say lawsuits are to be expected in the coming months, but a clear cause has to be found first. Now, the Sandman Hotel Group did release a statement saying in part, quote, "Our hearts remain with everyone who is affected, and we continue to stay in close contact and provide support to team members who have been injured. We are also working with the fire department to contact our guests and reunite them with their belongings as quickly as possible." And those belongings can be claimed at the Zipper building in downtown, located at 275 13th Street. Just go to the bay doors on the west side of the building. That's where you can find the entrance. And if you have any questions regarding the hot zone, or if your business was in the hot zone, you can contact the Emergency Operations Center for assistance. Live in Fort Worth, Ryan Cottrell, the newsfeed at noon.
Governor Greg Abbott is criticizing New York City's lawsuit against bus companies. New York City Mayor Eric Adams filed a lawsuit against a dozen charter bus companies that have been transporting migrants from Texas to New York City. Abbott explained why he thinks the mayor will not win.
The lawsuit is completely legally baseless, and the mayor is going to lose very badly for this very specific reason, and that is everybody who is bused to or planed to New York is already authorized by the Biden administration to be within the United States legally. And because of that, that means that they have the legal right to travel wherever they want in the United States, and the lawsuit by the mayor violates the United States Constitutions in several respects, and the mayor is going to lose and lose badly, and I hope he is forced to pay the legal fees for the cost of anybody having to defend against that lawsuit.
The constant division between Democrats and Republicans once again takes the spotlight, and Governor Greg Abbott fires back, hoping to protect the Texas border.
Owen, when you came into my life, it was a whirlwind.
I just can't do it.
We didn't know what the future would hold, but we knew you would always be a part of it. Adopting you was the best decision in our life. And I am so proud to call you my son.
You know you don't have to wear your PT gear anymore, right?
It's comfortable.
So how's civilian life treating you?
It's fine.
When I got out, I didn't want to admit that there was anything wrong because I felt like a failure. And then I realized, like, there's nothing to be ashamed of. So I started talking to someone. Maybe you are fine, but if you're not, it's okay.
Thank you.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Worried about your friend, but don't know how to reach out?
You could say, how are you, or get a fake tattoo. You could ask with an app if it works for you. You could chat with them in VR, it's so good. If you think you should check in, yeah, you should.
Whatever gets you talking. Reach out to a friend about their mental health. Whatever gets you talking. Learn how you can help at seizetheawkward.org.
A driver is in custody after a vehicle crashed into a gate at the White House complex on Monday evening. The Secret Service is investigating the incident. No one was hurt, but the roads in the area were initially closed to traffic in response to the incident. At the time, President Biden was en route from South Carolina to Texas to pay his respects after the passing of Eddie Bernice Johnson. Texas wants the Supreme Court to reject the Biden administration's request to remove razor wire at the border. The Border Patrol had to stop removing it last month on the order of federal appeals court. Then the Biden administration filed an emergency request to the Supreme Court to allow the practice to continue. The dispute stems from a lawsuit Texas filed last year to stop Border Patrol agents from cutting wire. State attorneys say it's state property and undermines the security efforts to help protect the border of Texas. Some Republicans now say they're willing to shut down the government if Democrats don't meet their demands. It's a potentially unpopular position in an election year. A GOP group is set to hold an event explaining their views, as Amy Kiley reports.
There's a likelihood we could have a week or two short-term, shutdown.
A growing number of Republicans say they'd support using a government shutdown as a negotiating tactic. Right now, the U.S. is operating under a two-part funding plan that expires January 19th and February 2nd. Some conservatives say letting the clock run out could pressure Democrats into more spending cuts and tighter border security. Several are holding an event this afternoon to explain that position. They have support from a few GOP leaders.
There are only some very rare exceptions and extenuating circumstances. The border is one of those.
There's a real urgency to get these appropriation bills passed.
But the group doesn't speak for the whole party.
We absolutely cannot have a government shutdown.
It's just a small minority, and unfortunately we just have a small majority.
Past polling suggests shutdowns are unpopular, and this is an election year. Speaker Mike Johnson says House and Senate leaders are working on a long-term bipartisan plan. Democrats are signaling they could support it, but working across the aisle is what cost former Speaker Kevin McCarthy the gavel.
But people are saying that at home, and they do not want to see our Republican Speaker of the House getting rolled in these meetings behind closed doors.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Thank you, Amy. A flight had to take an emergency landing in Amarillo when one of the passengers, Keith Fogiana, assaulted a flight attendant. Officials say the assault occurred after he was asked to stop kicking the back of a chair. He allegedly punched the crew member in the stomach and continued with additional punches while passengers helped restrain Fogiana. The American Airlines flight originated in Dallas and was flying to Bozeman, Montana when the emergency took place. Landing in Amarillo, he was taken into custody and later claimed he had been drinking. Many Americans are looking for a new place to live. Mortgage applications shot up 9.9% during the first week of January. According to Wednesday's report from the Mortgage Bankers Association, analysts say this major hike is promising for the overall market, and it hints that dropping interest rates are getting more house hunters back on the prowl. The average rates for a 30-year fixed loan is now just over 6.6%, according to Freddie Mac. Officials there say rates have been sliding since hitting nearly 7.8% in October. We, here in the DFW area, expect any snow or ice. Anderson has the details next.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
Honey, what I think you need is a socket wrench.
I played JV basketball.
I'm sorry, I don't think it looks right.
This is good, and it's all good, baby.
Is it really all good?
If you love me enough to routinely test your handyman skills, not to mention the strength of your marriage, then of course you'll visit nhtsa.gov/therightseat to make sure I'm in the right car seat.
I'm gonna call my dad.
Welcome back to the NewsFeed. Right now we're at 42 degrees with pretty gusty winds outside and mostly cloudy skies, with dropping down to 29 degrees later tonight. Our current conditions, we're all chilling on the 40 degrees mark. Gonna be a pretty nice day other than wind chill, but go outside, spend some time with your family. And looks like we're not gonna really be getting out of the 40 degree mark until overnight, so it's gonna be a pretty chilly night if you're planning on doing anything. And for the weekend forecast tomorrow, we have a high of 56 and a low of 26. So it's a pretty nice, pleasant day, but on Sunday is when we have a freeze alert. We're not going to get above freezing. Make sure you have tap water running just a little bit to make sure your pipes don't explode. And a low of 10. Sunday morning, we're chilling around 28 through 26 degrees in the Dallas area. Waco through Longview are going to be barely above freezing. For Monday morning, we're going to be chilling around 14-ish degrees, and the hottest one is going to be McKinney at 27 degrees. Hear me. We are not going to get out of the teens, so be careful and have safety supplies. And for the 7-day forecast, Monday through Tuesday, we have a freeze alert. Wednesday through Friday, we're going to get nicer, and Saturday through Sunday is going to be a nice and pleasant weekend.
Thank you so much, Anderson. An avalanche at a ski resort in the Lake Tahoe area of California left one man dead and another injured. Tori Apodaca spoke with one skier who was there when it happened.
The bus was like 5 minutes late, and 5 minutes earlier, I probably would have been in it. And that's the part that's freaking me out.
Jen Winkelpleck was on the ski lift when she saw the deadly avalanche at Palisades come rumbling down.
I'm sorry, I'm crying a little because it was freaking freaky.
Immediately, she and other skiers jumped into action, working with Palisades and first responders to look for those buried in the Tahoe snow.
These like line formations where you're like shoulder to shoulder and everybody starts just poking the snow. You either hit rock or you hit a body.
The Placer County Sheriff's Office confirmed 4 people total were caught, 2 buried, 1 injured, and 1 man dead.
But it's been quite a traumatic morning.
Do you
So, yeah.
ski on these slopes
I do.
often?
I'm here all the time. So my phone actually blew up because a lot of people were concerned that I was in that avalanche.
The slope where they searched for the survivors had just opened for the first time this season, minutes before the avalanche hit.
And I was really shocked that they were going to open KT today because I knew that this storm was coming. And I was like, there's no way they're going to open that. There's no way.
Specifically, have there been avalanche mitigation efforts in that location?
We've had ski patrol up there doing avalanche control assessments since Sunday.
In this industry, there's risk and reward. And this was unfortunately a risk, and that didn't pay off very good.
Winkleplug counting her blessings that she's alive.
I'm lucky that the bus was late because I would have been in that avalanche.
But praying for the man who died and others caught in the worst of it.
Anybody that was off the chair, we just all got asked to help and start probing and start trying to just find people.
Praying for everybody involved. Preparations were made Wednesday for potential historic flooding. City officials expect floodwaters to reach record levels as severe weather moves through the area. Multiple roads were closed amid reports of power outages as flood warnings were issued. A flooding barricade called Flooding Boom was deployed and sandbags were put in place to help deal with the rising waters. The mayor said the barrier has been working well since its installation.
A Michigan community and Catholic parish mourn the loss of Jen and Ryan Ambrosio. Our Lady of Sorrows Catholic Church will miss their presence each Sunday morning. Even more tragic, they leave behind 6 children, all due to a senseless act.
We are all shocked by this news, and I thought it was so sad, very, very sad, the saddest news I've ever heard.
Every Sunday, Noriko Ernst plays the piano for Mass at Our Lady Sorrows Catholic Church, and every Sunday she sees Jen and Ryan Ambrosio along with their half a dozen kids.
Wonderful people with the 6 children, tiny ones from 9 to 2, come one by one like ducklings coming in.
Sadly, she'll never forget the moment she learned of Jen and Ryan's death.
I was so shocked. I couldn't think. I was actually trying to just compose myself because I had to play for Mass. And after the Mass, kind of start thinking, oh my goodness, I'm not going to see them anymore.
Jen and Ryan were both killed in a head-on collision on the Lodge Freeway involving a wrong-way driver. The driver of the other vehicle was believed to have been trying to get away from police when they say he turned off his lights, driving in the wrong direction of travel, killing the couple while they were returning from date night.
Jen and Ryan are such a gentle, very unassuming, patient, just goodness, everything.
She's so heartbroken now knowing that the family has been torn apart.
They've been a wonderful model for the entire church family.
Another attempt at a moon launch, and EV cars have hit the streets for testing for one of our neighboring states. When the NewsFeed returns at noon.
You're not going to get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
If you love them enough to drive an hour to cheer them on as they get beat 11-0 in the rain, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Throw that ball, Diane! Woo! You got this!
How do you know when you've made the right decision? It's the feeling you get in your gut. The one that tells you what's right or wrong. It's the one that says, sure, I can have a drink. Or the feeling that says, okay, I've been drinking. Now what? It's the voice inside you that says, I'm buzzed. Better leave the car when it's time to go. Plan ahead. Catch a sober ride. Buzz driving is drunk driving.
I taught for 20 years, but I started forgetting my lectures. Eventually, he had to quit. My therapist recommended we go to the doctor.
The early Alzheimer's diagnosis allowed us to take control of the situation.
He's been such a positive force and so loving. Thank you. You're welcome.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
A rocket launched from Florida's Canaveral, carrying the first U.S. lunar lander in decades. But several hours after separating, a problem occurred. According to the company that built it, suffered an anomaly and may not be able to land on the moon. Astro Robotic had hoped to be the first private company to land a craft on the moon. The company says its scientists are working to see if the craft will be able to complete its mission. It's loaded with equipment to gather data for future moon missions.
Electric vehicles made in Oklahoma are now hitting the streets in the Sooner State. The Canoe vehicles were made in a plant in Oklahoma City, and last week the state received the first 3. They will be going to the Oklahoma Office of Management and Enterprise Services, the Department of Corrections, and the Department of Transportation. The DOC says it will be using their vehicle to patrol the perimeter at their facilities in Lexington and also to tour the state, talking about electric vehicle infrastructure. A new bill in California could make kids tackle football a thing of the past. The idea is to protect children from serious injuries while they are still growing. Tim Johns explains why some are for it and others are against it.
It's one of America's favorite pastimes, but for kids under the age of 12, tackle football could soon be a relic of the past in California. It's all thanks to a new bill authored by Sacramento Assemblymember Kevin McCarty that's making its way through the state legislature.
When we look at kids under the age of 12, tackle football is a high-risk sport.
Dr. Brian Feely is the head of sports medicine at UCSF. He says he supports the bill because of the elevated risk of concussions that comes with tackle football. Feely says these risks are especially heightened for young kids whose brains are in their most important stages of development.
You're at higher risk for anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation.
Feely says instead of tackle football, flag football is a far safer option.
Not everyone agrees with this bill, though. That includes some local coaches here in Oakland who tell me they fear that it will disproportionately impact young kids of color.
We do a lot of low-income families, a lot of families that go through struggles and maybe not have a male figure at home.
Chewy Orr and Damon Gardner are the coaches of youth tackle football team, the Oakland Dynamites. They tell me for teams like theirs, football is more than just a sport. It's a way to teach kids about things like friendship, leadership, and camaraderie. They also say sports besides football also carry the risk of injuries.
You can jump in basketball, you can fall down, hit your head, got concussion. Look at the pitcher. You playing baseball, they throwing 90 miles per hour at you.
And as for flag football, coaches Chewy and Damon say they don't think it's a suitable alternative.
Flag football just doesn't carry enough kids. We have 30 kids. Flag football typically don't have about 15.
There's been a lot going on in football, but how about them Cowboys?
That's right. It's the end of the regular season and the playoffs start on Sunday. Here's Jason Hawley with your Timeline Sports.
That's right. We've got a lot of football to cover, so let's get to it. The playoffs are here for your 2-seed Cowboys as they host their rival, the Green Bay Packers. 3:30 Sunday. The boys are 8-0 when playing at home, and with the victory, they are guaranteed at least another home game after clinching the NFC East for the 5th time in 10 years. 6-time Super Bowl champion Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots are parting ways after 24 years together. The Patriots finished 4-13 this season and struggled to make the playoffs after the departure of quarterback Tom Brady. It is unsure if Belichick will coach again in the NFL. One thing is certain, he will end up in the Hall of Fame. Another champion is calling it a career. Alabama head coach Nick Saban announced his retirement from coaching Wednesday. Saban will retire with 7 national championships, more than any other coach in college football. The team that sent Saban into retirement, my Michigan Wolverines, defeated Washington 34-13 to claim their first national championship since 1997. After the game, Coach Harbaugh was asked, what is one thing he would change about college football?
The thing I would change about college football is to let the talent share in the ever-increasing revenues. the ones that are, in the position to, do the heavy lifting, the ones that, risk life and limb out there on a football field are the players, and not just football players, student athletes.
With the college playoffs expanding to 12 teams next season, there will be plenty of money that should be spread to the players. And that's your Timeline Sports.
Thanks, Jason.
Keep it here. We'll be right back.
We all know what it's like to feel alone. But it just takes one new connection.
Want to get out of here?
To empower many.
This is unbelievable.
It doesn't take a superhero to bring forces together. We all have the power to reach out.
Let's go!
And help someone feel like they belong.
Pretty cool, huh?
We are stronger together.
Meet the Scan, a simple procedure whose mission is to detect lung cancer early.
I'm here to save you.
But I feel fine.
That's great, but you may still be at high risk for lung cancer.
Oh man, that's a new fence.
If you smoke, early detection could save your life. Learn more at savedbythescan.org.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
You gotta stop with that depressing stuff. That's what white people think.
You all right?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it?
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Can't believe you're doing this alone.
I've done it before.
I remember. You threw your back out. How you holding up?
Hand me that board.
Nothing wrong with getting help.
I'm good.
I did it when Felicia left.
I'll figure it out.
I know you will, but you don't have to do it alone. That's all I'm saying.
If I promise to look into it, will you drop it and help me build this fence?
Now you need my help.
It can be a real pain sometimes, you know that?
Mm-hmm.
If you or a veteran you know needs support, don't wait. Reach out. Find resources at va.gov/reach.
A story of survival, a Good Samaritan helped rescue a woman who was trapped in her car for several days after driving over a cliff. While the man was helping her, he was also receiving his own trauma. Nicole Kosmak has more.
A helicopter lowers a first responder down into a canyon near Mount Baldy.
Found this lady, she's been there since Wednesday.
After a Good Samaritan found a woman trapped inside this mangled truck. It flipped down an embankment after she swerved to avoid hitting a deer in the dark.
I heard her yelling, help, help, and real faint though.
Chris Ayers had been fishing in nearby San Antonio Creek when he followed her cries for help. He says he eventually found her standing inside the truck with her head poking out of the window.
There was not much left of her truck. When I got to the truck, it was mangled pretty bad, and I don't know how she survived it. I saw the steering wheel was almost folded like a taco. Her head must have hit that.
She'd been down there alone with head injuries for 4 very cold nights.
She had these bowls set up trying to collect rainwater, because I think the night before it hailed. And I don't know how she survived. She's one tough girl.
Chris tried to call 911, but there was no cell reception. He says he tried to flag down an ambulance on the road, but it didn't stop. Finally, he stopped a Forest Service truck, and they sent in the rescue crews. Those rescue crews say she may not have survived out here another night.
It's got to be God-led. I happened to stop at that one spot, and it's almost like fate, you know?
Chris knows exactly what it's like to need a miracle. He says 10 years ago he was shot while hunting in Lytle Creek, and he himself needed to be airlifted to a hospital.
So I've been in her shoes. I know what it feels like. So the whole thing was kind of traumatic. That's why I'm just so glad she made it.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Newsfeed.
We'll see you next week. Stay warm this weekend.
Have a great week and great news, everybody. I could have said my clothes.